I'm Megan, 32 years old, and I spent a decade building my father's company from the ground up, only to watch my siblings try to steal it all in one family meeting. I grew up smelling sawdust and hearing the rhythm of hammers on construction sites. I thought family meant loyalty, that hard work would speak for itself. But when Dad announced his retirement, everything changed. My brother and sister suddenly appeared wanting their share of something they never built. Then came the message that broke me. We think it's best you step away for now. 4 years of my life reduced to a group text dismissal. But my Aunt Patricia saw that message and everything shifted. Before I tell you how this unfolded, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. If you've ever been betrayed by people you trusted most, hit that like button because you'll relate to every word. And subscribe because what my aunt did next changed everything. Thompson Construction started 30 years ago in a small town outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My father, Roger, was 29 when he bought his first pickup truck and gathered a crew of 3 workers. He'd spend 14-hour days framing houses, his hands calloused and back aching, building a reputation one project at a time. By the time I was born, the company had grown to 12 employees. By my 10th birthday, we had 25. I remember Saturday mornings when Dad would take me to job sites. The smell of fresh-cut lumber, the sound of circular saws biting through 2x4s, the sight of walls rising from concrete foundations. While other kids played soccer or went to the mall, I wore a too-big hard hat and followed my father around construction sites. He'd show me blueprints, teaching me to read the lines and symbols. This is a load-bearing wall, Megan. See how it's marked thicker? And this here, that's where the electrical runs through. I'd nod, absorbing every word like it was the most important information in the world. My brother Kyle, 5 years older than me, had zero interest in construction. He played baseball through high school and college, dreaming of sports management careers. He'd roll his eyes when Dad talked about projects at dinner. My sister Brenda, 3 years older, took piano and ballet lessons. She'd complain about Dad's work boots leaving dirt on the carpet. But I loved everything about the business. I loved that Dad was building homes where families would live, where kids would grow up, where memories would be made. When I turned 16, Dad hired me officially. Minimum wage filing paperwork in the office trailer. I learned estimating how to calculate material costs, how to read supplier catalogs. I learned scheduling, understanding that electricians couldn't start until framing was done, that inspectors needed 3 days' notice. Mom Sandra worked part-time doing bookkeeping but mostly stayed home. She supported Dad but never really understood the passion he had for building. The summer before college, I told my parents I wanted to study construction management at Penn State. Mom wanted me to pursue teaching or nursing, something she considered more appropriate for a woman. But Dad's face lit up. "That's my girl," he said. "You're going to be something special in this industry." Kyle was already graduated working at a software company in Philadelphia. Brenda had just gotten married to her high school sweetheart, talking about starting a family. I threw myself into my studies. I learned structural engineering, project management, construction law, sustainable building practices. Every summer I came home and worked for Dad. Not in the office anymore, but on actual sites. I learned to read levels, to operate equipment, to manage subcontractors. The crews respected me because I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. I'd carry lumber mix concrete, whatever needed doing. I graduated at 22 with honors and a job offer from a large firm in Boston. The salary was almost double what Dad could pay me, but I turned it down. I came home to Thompson Construction. Dad couldn't believe it. "You sure about this, sweetheart? There's a whole world out there." "I'm sure, Dad. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to build." Kyle was doing well in software sales. Brenda had 3 kids and was busy with PTA meetings and soccer practices. Neither of them paid attention to the family business. Dad would mention at holiday dinners how a project was going, and they'd nod politely before changing the subject. But I was there every day. I became junior project coordinator, then project manager, then operations manager. I worked 80-hour weeks. I took client calls at 9 at night. I solved problems on weekends. When I was 26, I pitched Dad on expanding into sustainable construction. Solar panel installations, energy-efficient designs, green building certifications. He was hesitant at first. "That's a different market, Megan. Are people willing to pay extra?" I showed him the research, the growing demand, the long-term savings for homeowners. He trusted me. We invested $70,000 in training and equipment. Within 18 months, our sustainable projects accounted for 40% of revenue. We were featured in the regional building magazine. Clients came to us specifically because of our green expertise. Dad started introducing me to people as his successor. This is my daughter Megan. She's the future of Thompson Construction. I felt proud, validated. All those years of dedication were paying off. The company that started with Dad's pickup truck now had 40 employees and brought in $2 million annually. And I had played a major role in that growth. On my 30th birthday, Dad took me to lunch at his favorite diner. Megan, I want you to know something. This company, everything I built it wouldn't be what it is without you. Kyle and Brenda, they're my kids and I love them. But you're the one with the vision, the drive. When I retire, this is yours. I want you to take Thompson Construction into the future. I remember tearing up, squeezing his hand across the table. Thank you, Dad. I won't let you down. But that promise made over coffee and pie at a corner booth would turn out to mean nothing when money entered the picture. March came with an unseasonably warm stretch. The crews were finishing a custom home in the suburbs, and I was reviewing bids for a commercial renovation downtown. Dad called a family meeting at the house. All three of us kids, plus Mom. It felt formal, which was unusual. Dad was usually casual, grabbing conversations whenever they happened. We sat around the dining room table. Dad cleared his throat. I've been thinking about something for a while now. Your mother and I, we'd like to do some traveling. I'm 60 years old. I've worked since I was 15. I think it's time to think about retirement. My heart jumped. This was it. The transition we'd discussed. The plan we'd been building toward. Kyle leaned forward. What does that mean for the company? Dad smiled. Well, that's what I want to talk about. I'm thinking of transitioning ownership to you three. You're my children. It should stay in the family. Brenda looked surprised. Really? All three of us. Dad nodded. I want to be fair. You're all my kids. I felt my first flutter of concern, but pushed it down. Of course we'd all be owners. That made sense from a family perspective. But I'd run operations. That was understood right. I want to travel with your mom, Dad continued. See, Europe, maybe spend a winter in Arizona. I don't want to be tied to daily operations anymore. We can work out the details, but I'm thinking about making this official by the end of the year. Kyle asked the question that should have warned me. What's the company worth now? Dad? Dad looked at Mom. We had it appraised last year. Between the assets, equipment, goodwill, client base, we're looking at around $1.8 million. I watched Kyle's eyes change. It was subtle, but I'd known my brother my whole life. That was his calculating look, the one he got when he smelled opportunity. Brenda asked about structure. How would the split work exactly? Dad said. We'll figure it out fairly. I'm meeting with a business consultant next month. We'll set up a proper succession plan, everything legal and clear. I wanted to ask what fairly meant. Did it mean equal ownership despite unequal contribution? Did it account for the decade I'd spent building this company? But I stayed quiet. This was Dad's company. He could do what he wanted with it. The meeting ended with hugs and excitement. Kyle stayed after talking to Dad about numbers and valuations. I went home to my apartment, my mind spinning. I texted Aunt Patricia, Dad's younger sister, who taught history at the local high school. Dad's retiring, transitioning the company to us kids. She replied immediately. That's wonderful, honey. You've earned it. Have I? Though I typed back. Or am I about to get outvoted by siblings who just showed up? The next week, Kyle did something that shocked everyone. He quit his job in Philadelphia. I'm coming back, he announced in our family group chat. If I'm going to be an owner, I should be involved in the business. I called him. Kyle, that's great. We definitely need help. What role are you thinking? He laughed. I don't know yet, sis. Let's just see how things shake out. He started coming to the office. Day one, he didn't ask about ongoing projects or meet the crew. He asked to see the financial statements, the P&L reports, the balance sheets. Our accountant Jerry looked at me confused. Should I give him access to everything I sighed? He's family. It's fine. But it didn't feel fine. Brenda started showing up too. Not to work, but to observe, she said. She'd sit in on meetings asking questions about company value and assets. She'd never asked about actual construction before. She didn't know the difference between a joist and a stud, but suddenly she cared deeply about quarterly earnings. Mom's attitude shifted too. She'd always been supportive but distant from the business. Now she was saying things like, "It's wonderful that all my children can benefit from what your father built." When I'd try to explain that I'd been the one expanding the business, modernizing our systems, she'd pat my hand. "Of course, honey. But family is family. Everyone should share equally." I should have fought back then, should have demanded clarity. But I still believed in fairness in family, in the idea that hard work would be recognized and rewarded. I was naive. I thought truth was enough, that my track record would speak for itself. The business consultant, Mr. Davis, came in April. He met with all of us over 3 sessions. He reviewed the company's structure, finances, operations. In the third meeting, he asked each of us to describe our role and vision for the company. I went first. I'm the operations manager. I oversee all projects from bid to completion. I manage our 40-person crew, maintain client relationships, handle estimating and scheduling. I've been here full-time for 10 years. I've grown revenue by 60% since I started. My vision is to continue expanding our sustainable construction division and possibly branch into light commercial work. Kyle went next. I bring business management experience from the tech sector. I understand scaling operations, financial optimization, strategic growth. I see Thompson Construction as an asset that could be franchised or replicated in other markets. Mr. Davis raised an eyebrow. "You have construction experience." Kyle hesitated. "Not hands-on, but management principles are universal." Brenda said, "I want to be involved in operations. I've been raising my family, but now my kids are older. I'm ready to contribute. I have skills in organization and people management." Mr. Davis was polite, but clearly unconvinced. "What specifically would you handle?" Brenda looked flustered. "Whatever needs doing. Client relations, maybe?" But she'd never met a client, never been to a site, never reviewed a blueprint. After the meeting, Mr. Davis pulled me aside. "Ms. Thompson, can I be frank?" I nodded. "You're clearly the backbone of this operation. Your siblings have no construction experience or knowledge. If this were a business decision based purely on merit, you'd be the sole operator with perhaps minority shareholders. But family businesses are complicated. Your father wants to be fair to all his children. That's admirable, but sometimes impractical." I appreciated his honesty. "What do you recommend?" He sighed. "Document everything. Your contributions, your projects, your client relationships. If this goes the direction I think it might, you'll need evidence of your value." That should have been my second warning, but I still believed Dad would do the right thing. May arrived with tension crackling through every family interaction. Kyle had been at the company for 6 weeks, and already our systems were changing. Not improving, just changing. He'd override my scheduling decisions. He'd call meetings without inviting me. He'd speak to clients I'd worked with for years, introducing confusion into relationships I'd carefully built. One morning, I came in to find an email thread I hadn't been included on. Kyle, Brenda, and Dad discussing a major decision about equipment purchases. "We need to replace the backhoe," Kyle had written. "I found a dealer offering financing. I jumped into the email chain. I'm already getting quotes on that. Jenkins Equipment is giving us a better rate, and they've serviced our machinery for 15 years. Kyle replied within minutes. "I've already committed to the other dealer. Better to consolidate our financing." But it wasn't better. I'd spent weeks negotiating with Jenkins. I'd built that relationship, and Kyle had just torpedoed it without asking me. I walked into his temporary office. "Kyle, you can't make equipment decisions without consulting me. I manage operations." He didn't look up from his laptop. "Things are changing, Megan. We need faster decision-making. I'm not slowing down decisions. I'm making informed ones." He finally met my eyes. "Maybe that's the problem. You're too in the weeds. We need big-picture thinking." The pattern repeated daily. I'd be left off email chains. Meetings would be scheduled without me. Decisions I'd normally make were being routed through Kyle. When I complained to Dad, he'd say Kyle's trying to help. Give him a chance. But Kyle wasn't helping. He was undermining. And Dad either couldn't see it or didn't want to. The real betrayal started with a meeting I wasn't told about. Thompson Construction had been working with First National Bank for 12 years. They'd financed our equipment, given us a line of credit for materials, supported us through rough patches. In early June, the bank scheduled a meeting to discuss expanding our credit line. I'd requested it weeks earlier because we had 3 big projects starting in July. I only found out about the meeting after it happened. Our banker, Mr. Patterson, called me. Megan, I wanted to follow up on yesterday's discussion about the credit expansion. I was confused. What meeting? There was a pause. You weren't there. Your brother Kyle and your father came in yesterday. We discussed the credit line and some changes to account structure. My stomach dropped. What changes? Apparently, Kyle had convinced Dad to make him a signatory on all company accounts, and he'd suggested that major financial decisions should go through him now, not me. Mr. Patterson sounded uncomfortable. Megan, I've worked with you for years. You've been our primary contact. This felt odd to me, which is why I'm calling. I appreciate that. Can you send me the meeting notes? He did. I read them, getting angrier with each line. I confronted Dad that afternoon. Why wasn't I at the bank meeting? He looked guilty. Kyle said he'd handle it. It was just about the credit line. It was about much more than that. They changed account access. They're routing financial decisions through Kyle now. Dad sighed. Megan, Kyle has financial expertise. It makes sense to use his skills. Dad, I've been managing this company's finances successfully for years. We're profitable. We're growing. What exactly am I failing at? He couldn't answer, or wouldn't. Instead, he said, Can't you just work together? Kyle's your brother. I want my children to cooperate, but cooperation requires mutual respect. Kyle doesn't respect what I've built here. He wants to take over. Dad patted my shoulder. You're being paranoid, sweetheart. Nobody's taking anything from you. But they were, and it was happening in plain sight. The next blow came through our clients. Mrs. Henderson had been working with me for 3 years. We'd renovated her kitchen, added a sunroom, and were planning a second-story addition. She emailed me confused. Megan, I received a call from someone named Brenda saying she's my new point of contact. What's going on? I hadn't been told about any reassignment. I found Brenda in the conference room going through client files. My files. What are you doing? She looked up unbothered. Reorganizing accounts. It's more efficient if we distribute the client load. These are my clients. I've built these relationships over years. She shrugged. They're company clients, and I need something to do. You can't just take over my accounts. She stood up suddenly cold. Actually, Megan, as an owner, I can. Kyle and I discussed it. We're restructuring client management. I escalated to Dad again. He looked tired. Megan, please. Brenda needs responsibilities. She wants to contribute. She doesn't know anything about construction. She'll learn. You learned once too, but I learned by working from the ground up, by earning trust, not by having it handed to me. Dad's voice got firmer. That's enough. Brenda is your sister. You will work with her. Or what? The question hung between us. He didn't answer. Kyle started presenting my work as his own. I'd spent a month developing a proposal for a mixed-use development downtown. Complex project, big budget, prestigious client. I'd coordinated with 3 architects, 2 engineers, and multiple subcontractors. I'd run numbers, created timelines, drafted detailed scopes of work. It was some of my best work. The client, Mr. Yamamoto, scheduled a presentation meeting. I prepared my pitch-printed materials, rehearsed key points. The morning of the meeting, Kyle intercepted me. Change of plans. I'll be presenting today. What? Why? He straightened his tie. Dad and I agreed. You'll attend, but I'll lead. This is my project. Kyle, you put in groundwork. I'm closing the deal. That's how teams work. In the meeting, Kyle presented my proposal nearly word for word. He stumbled over technical details because he didn't actually understand them. Mr. Yamamoto kept looking at me for clarification. Megan, what's the timeline on the structural engineering review? I'd answer only to have Kyle jump back in. What my sister means is, after the meeting, Mr. Yamamoto pulled me aside. Is everything okay? That felt disorganized. I forced a smile. We're going through some transitions. He looked concerned. Because I've worked with you for 2 years. You've never been disorganized. If something's changed, I need to know. I assured him nothing had changed, but we both knew I was lying. Everything had changed, and it was about to get worse. The group message came on a Tuesday evening in late June. I was at home reviewing blueprints for the Jefferson project when my phone buzzed. The family group chat. I almost didn't open it. These messages had become stressful, full of passive-aggressive comments and thinly veiled criticisms. Kyle's message appeared first. After discussing with Mom and Dad, we think it's best if Megan steps away for now. I read it 3 times, not believing what I was seeing. My hands started shaking. We're concerned the transition stress is affecting her performance. We've arranged for her to take a leave of absence paid while we stabilize operations. Brenda chimed in immediately. This is for your own good, Megan. You need a break. You've been working so hard for so long. Take some time for yourself. Mom's message followed. We love you, honey. This is just temporary. You seem so stressed lately. A few weeks away will do you good. Then Dad. Take some time for yourself, sweetheart. The company will be fine. We'll handle things. I stared at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched. They were pushing me out of the company I'd built, out of the business I'd dedicated 10 years to, and they were framing it as concern for my well-being. The manipulation was breathtaking. I started typing a response, deleted it, started again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could I even say? You're pushing me out, I finally typed. Kyle responded instantly. We're protecting you and the company. Sometimes people are too close to a situation to see when they need to step back. Brenda added, We're not pushing you out. We're giving you space to rest and reset. When you come back, things will be clearer. But I saw through it. This wasn't about me resting. This was about them consolidating power. Once I was gone, even temporarily, they'd restructure everything. They'd change locks, change accounts, change my role into something meaningless. And by the time I came back, if they let me come back, I'd be a guest in my own company. I built this company with Dad. That's what I wrote next. Kyle's response was cold. Dad built this company. You helped. There's a difference. And now it's time to let others lead. Brenda piled on. You've done great work, Megan. Nobody's taking that away from you. But leadership means knowing when to pass the torch. I looked at Dad's profile picture in the chat, waiting, hoping he'd say something, hoping he'd tell Kyle and Brenda to stop, hoping he'd remember all those years we spent together building this business. But he stayed silent. Mom sent another message. Megan, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Your father and I just want what's best for everyone. What's best for everyone apparently meant sacrificing me. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the couch and bounced to the floor. I sat there in my living room surrounded by blueprints and project files, feeling utterly alone. Everything I'd worked for was being stolen, not by strangers, by my own family. And the worst part was, they were doing it with smiles and concerns and we love yous. I picked up my phone with shaking hands. The screen was cracked but still worked. I scrolled through the messages again, each one feeling like a knife. Then I saw a new message pop up, from Aunt Patricia. I just saw these messages and I need to say something. Relief flooded through me. Someone was going to stand up for me. What is happening here? Aunt Patricia wrote. The chat went silent for a moment. Then Kyle responded. This is a family matter, Aunt Patricia. She shot back immediately. Roger is my brother. Megan is my niece. This is my family matter. I've been watching this unfold for weeks and I've stayed quiet, but this is absolutely unacceptable. Brenda tried to deflect. We're just trying to protect our sister. Aunt Patricia wasn't having it. Protect her from what? From the only career she's ever wanted, from the company she's poured her life into. Let me tell you what I've witnessed, and everyone needs to hear this. My heart was pounding. Aunt Patricia continued typing, and I could picture her furious face, her teacher voice coming through even in text. Megan has been at Thompson Construction every single day for 10 years while the rest of you barely acknowledged it existed. Kyle, when's the last time you spent more than an hour at a job site before you decided you wanted to own the company? Kyle responded defensively. I've been busy with my career. Exactly, Aunt Patricia shot back. A career that had nothing to do with construction until you smelled money. Brenda, you've called me 4 times in the past month. Not once did you ask how Megan was doing. Not once did you ask about the actual business operations. Every single call was about valuation, about assets, about what the company is worth. Don't pretend this is about Megan's well-being. This is about you two wanting control of something you didn't build. Brenda tried to defend herself. That's not fair, Aunt Patricia. Life isn't fair, Patricia responded. What's not fair is ganging up on the one person who actually earned her place in that company. What's not fair is gaslighting her into thinking she's the problem when the problem is your greed. Roger, are you reading this? I want to know how you're justifying this to yourself. Dad finally responded. Patricia, we appreciate your input, but we've made our decision as a family. Aunt Patricia's response was immediate and scathing. Have you asked Megan what she wants, or does she not count as family now? Mom jumped in. Megan's not in the best state to make clear decisions right now. The stress has obviously affected her judgment. I felt rage building. They were actually suggesting I was mentally unstable, that my resistance to being pushed out was evidence of poor judgment rather than reasonable self-defense. Aunt Patricia demolished that argument. According to who Megan is the most level-headed person in this family. She's managed a multi-million-dollar company successfully, but suddenly she's not capable of knowing her own mind. This is transparent manipulation, and you should all be ashamed. Kyle tried to end the conversation. This isn't productive, Aunt Patricia. You're right, she agreed, because you've already decided to throw Megan under the bus to make yourselves feel less guilty about your own negligence. But let me be crystal clear about something. Megan shouldn't have to stand alone in this. I'm coming over tomorrow and we're going to figure out exactly what's happening here. Brenda shot back. We don't have to listen to this. No, but Megan shouldn't have to listen to you three either, Aunt Patricia responded. She deserves better than this. She deserves family who actually values what she contributes instead of seeing her as an obstacle to their inheritance. I'm done watching this happen. Tomorrow, Megan. Be ready. The chat went quiet after that. Nobody knew what to say. Mom tried to remove Aunt Patricia from the group, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen her call them out. Everyone had seen her take my side when nobody else would. I sat on my couch crying with relief and anger and fear all mixed together. At least I wasn't alone. At least someone saw the truth. At least someone was willing to fight for me. Aunt Patricia called me 10 minutes later. Honey, are you okay? I broke down. No, I'm not okay. They're taking everything. Her voice was firm. Not if I have anything to say about it. Listen to me. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock my place. Bring every document you have, every email, every project file, every piece of evidence showing what you've contributed. Why? Because we're going to see a lawyer, a good one, and we're going to figure out how to protect you. I can't sue my family. Maybe you won't have to, but you need to know your options. You need to understand your rights, and you need leverage. Right now, they think you're helpless. We're going to show them they're wrong. Aunt Patricia, I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can, because you're stronger than they are. You're smarter than they are. And most importantly, you're right. Truth matters, Megan. And we're going to make sure it wins. After we hung up, I spent the rest of the night gathering documents. Every email where Kyle undermined me. Every client testimonial praising my work. Every financial report showing revenue growth under my management. I found the email chain where Kyle and Brenda discussed pushing me out and buying my shares cheap. I printed everything, backed it up to 3 different drives. If this was going to be a fight, I needed ammunition. I barely slept. I kept thinking about the family I thought I had versus the reality I was facing. But somewhere in those dark hours, something shifted. The grief turned to anger. The hurt turned to determination. They wanted me to step away. They were about to learn what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. I showed up at Aunt Patricia's house at 7:45 the next morning with 2 boxes of documents. She opened the door already dressed for business, her expression fierce and protective. Come in, honey. Coffee's ready. We spent an hour going through everything. She took notes, asked questions, organized evidence into categories. This is worse than I thought, she said finally. They've been systematically undermining you for months. What can I do? I feel so powerless. She picked up her phone. You're about to become very powerful. I'm calling someone I know. Her name is Jennifer Morrison. She's a lawyer who specializes in business disputes and employment issues. Within 2 hours, we were sitting in Ms. Morrison's downtown office. She was probably 50 with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. The whole story from Dad's retirement announcement through last night's group message. She listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Let me be direct. Your siblings are attempting to squeeze you out of a company you largely built. Your parents are either complicit or in denial. Legally, this is complicated because there's no formal employment contract, correct? I nodded. Everything was informal because it was family. She made a note. That cuts both ways. They can't fire you because you're not technically an employee, but they also don't have to pay you if there's no contract. However, she continued, you're still a partial owner. According to the succession plan documents you showed me, each sibling owns 33.3%. They cannot force you out of ownership without buying you out at fair market value, and they certainly can't force you to stop working there. What about the leave of absence they're demanding? Ms. Morrison smiled thinly. That has no legal weight. It's a suggestion, not an order. If you show up to work tomorrow, they can't physically remove you. Aunt Patricia jumped in. What about the emails where they discuss buying her out cheaply? Ms. Morrison's eyes lit up. That's the interesting part. If you can prove they conspired to devalue your contribution in order to buy your shares below market value, that's potentially fraud. It would be hard to prove in court, but it's leverage. Leverage, I asked. In negotiation, she explained. Right now, they think you're helpless. They think you'll take whatever they offer because you don't want to fight family. But if you show you're willing to fight, if you show you have evidence of their manipulation, the power dynamic shifts. What do you recommend? Ms. Morrison stood and walked to her window. You have 3 options. 1, you accept the situation. Take whatever role they give you, collect a paycheck, and lose control of the company you built. 2, you fight legally. Sue for your rights as an equal owner. Force them to recognize your value. That will be expensive, time-consuming, and will absolutely destroy your family relationships. 3, you fight strategically. You reassert your position, document everything they do, and force them to either accept you as an equal partner or buy you out at full value. I choose 3, I said immediately. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Then, here's what we do. Tomorrow you go to work as normal. You don't acknowledge their leave of absence demand. You continue doing your job. When they confront you, you calmly state that as a 1/3 owner you have every right to be there. You document every conversation, every decision they make, every attempt to push you out. Aunt Patricia added, and I'll be making some calls too. Your father and I need to have a conversation. So do I and Sandra. They need to understand what they're enabling. Ms. Morrison nodded approvingly. Family pressure can be effective, but Megan, you need to be prepared for this to get uglier. They won't back down easily. I know, but neither will I. Not anymore. That evening, I went home and prepared. I laid out my clothes for the next day, professional but ready for a construction site. Navy blue pantsuit, steel-toed boots in the car. I went through my calendar, noting every meeting, every project deadline, every client interaction coming up. I wasn't leaving. I wasn't stepping away. I was claiming what was mine. Thursday morning, I walked into Thompson Construction at 7:30, my usual time. The office manager, Susan, looked shocked. Megan, I thought you were taking leave. Change of plans, I said calmly. I'll be working today. She looked uncomfortable but nodded. Kyle arrived an hour later. He froze when he saw me at my desk. What are you doing here? Working. I'm the operations manager. I have projects to oversee. His face reddened. We discussed this. You're supposed to be on leave. You discussed it, I corrected. I never agreed. And as a 1/3 owner of this company, I don't need anyone's permission to be here. Kyle stepped closer, lowering his voice. Megan, don't make this difficult. I met his eyes. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm doing my job. The job I've been doing successfully for 10 years. If that's difficult for you, that's your problem, not mine. He pulled out his phone, clearly texting someone. Probably Brenda, probably Dad. I turned back to my computer and opened my project files. The Jefferson renovation needed material orders. The Patterson new build needed a schedule update. The Yamamoto project needed engineering approvals. Real work. Work I actually knew how to do. Brenda showed up 40 minutes later looking flustered. Megan, we need to talk. Sure, I said pleasantly. Want to discuss the Henderson account? You told her you were her new contact, but she's been calling me directly. Brenda blinked. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant, but I'm here to work. If you want to talk about actual business, I'm available. Otherwise, I have a lot to catch up on. Kyle and Brenda huddled in the conference room. I could see them through the glass having an animated discussion. Then Kyle made a phone call. To Dad, presumably. I kept working. At 10, my phone rang. Dad's number. I answered. Hey, Dad. Megan, what's going on? Kyle says you came into the office. That's right, but we agreed you'd take some time off. You and Kyle and Brenda agreed. I never did, and nobody has the authority to force me to take leave. There was a long silence. Megan, why are you being so difficult? Difficult. I'm doing my job. That's literally all I'm doing. You're making your brother and sister uncomfortable. They're making me unemployed. There's a difference. Dad's voice got firmer. This isn't how family treats each other. You're absolutely right, I said. Family doesn't scheme to push each other out. Family doesn't lie about performance issues. Family doesn't conspire to steal each other's life's work. But here we are. Megan, Dad started. I cut him off gently. Dad, I love you. But I'm not leaving. I'm not taking leave. I'm not stepping aside so Kyle and Brenda can play business owner with something they didn't build. I'm a 1/3 owner. I'm the operations manager, and I'm staying. He was quiet for a long moment. We'll discuss this later. Looking forward to it, I said, and hung up. At 11, I called an all-hands meeting. Kyle tried to stop me. You can't do that without approval. Actually, I can. I'm an owner, and the team needs clarity about project assignments. The employees gathered in the main conference room looking nervous. There had been tension in the air for weeks, and everyone felt it. I stood at the front of the room, projecting confidence I didn't entirely feel. I want to address some confusion about reporting structure I began. There have been some changes in ownership as my father prepares to retire. My siblings are now co-owners alongside me. However, operational management remains unchanged. Your project assignments, your schedules, your day-to-day work continues as it has been. If you have questions about projects, timelines, or client needs, come to me. That's my job, and I'll continue doing it. Tommy, our lead foreman, looked relieved. So nothing's changing on the job sites? Nothing, I confirmed. We have great projects lined up. We have a strong team, and we're going to keep doing the excellent work Thompson Construction is known for. Kyle stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, face red. Several employees glanced at him nervously. After the meeting, Tommy pulled me aside. Megan, real talk. What's going on? There's been a lot of weird energy lately. I sighed. Honest answer. My siblings want to change how the company operates. I disagree with their approach, but I want you to know that the actual work, the actual projects, none of that's changing. I've got your back. Tommy nodded slowly. You've always been straight with us. We appreciate that. Just whatever family stuff is happening, try to keep it from affecting the crew. We just want to build good things. I'll do my best, I promised. Over the next few days, I systematically reasserted my role. I reached out to every major client personally. Mrs. Henderson, this is Megan. I wanted to confirm I'm still your primary contact for the addition project. Mr. Yamamoto just checking in on the commercial development timeline. Ms. Rodriguez following up on the sustainable home design we discussed. Every client expressed relief. Several mentioned that Brenda had called them but couldn't answer basic questions about their projects. One client said Kyle had tried to upsell them on services they didn't need. I smoothed everything over reestablished trust, documented every interaction. Kyle and Brenda were furious but couldn't do much about it. The clients wanted to work with me, not them. The tension at the office became unbearable. Kyle and I would pass in hallways without speaking. Brenda stopped coming in after the first week, probably realizing she was useless there. Dad came by occasionally looking tired and sad. He'd try to make small talk with me. How's the Jefferson project? Fine. The Patterson build on schedule. He wanted normalcy, but there was none to be had. 2 weeks after I'd refused the leave of absence, Ms. Morrison called. I've been reviewing everything you've sent. You're building a strong record, but I think it's time to force their hand. What do you mean? We schedule a formal meeting. All owners plus me as your attorney. We lay out your position clearly. You're not leaving. You're not taking a back seat. Either they accept you as an equal operating partner or you'll pursue legal remedies. What kind of remedies? Buyout at full value hostile work environment claims possibly fraud charges for the conspiracy to undervalue your shares. That sounds nuclear, I said. It is. But sometimes you need a big gun, even if you don't fire it. The threat alone might bring them to the table. I thought about it. Okay, let's do it. Ms. Morrison scheduled the meeting for the following Tuesday at her office. She sent formal invitations to Kyle, Brenda, and Dad. Kyle called me immediately. A lawyer. Really, Megan? You're lawyering up against your own family. You tried to push me out of my own company, I said calmly. What did you expect? We were trying to help you. By lying about my performance, by conspiring to buy me out cheap. I have the emails, Kyle. I know exactly what you were doing. There was silence. Then his voice got cold. Fine. If that's how you want to play this, fine. We'll see you Tuesday. Tuesday morning arrived with gray skies threatening rain. I put on my sharpest suit black with a crisp white blouse. Aunt Patricia met me at Ms. Morrison's office 30 minutes early. Remember, she said, stay calm, stay factual, don't get emotional. They'll try to push your buttons. Don't let them. I nodded, feeling my heart race. Kyle, Brenda, and Dad arrived 10 minutes late, probably a power play. They looked uncomfortable in Ms. Morrison's sleek conference room. Ms. Morrison started immediately. Thank you all for coming. We're here to discuss the ongoing dispute about operations and management at Thompson Construction. She gestured to me. Megan has retained me to protect her interests as a one-third owner and the person who has managed operations for the past decade. She paused, looking at each of them. It's time to resolve this situation one way or another. Kyle leaned forward. There's nothing to resolve. This is a family business and we're making family decisions. Ms. Morrison didn't blink. Actually, there's quite a bit to resolve. Let's start with the emails where you and Brenda discussed conspiracy to force Megan out and buy her shares below market value. She slid copies across the table. Kyle's face went white. Where did you get those? From me, I said quietly. You accidentally CC'd me. Remember, the meeting lasted 3 hours. Kyle and Brenda tried every argument. Megan's difficult to work with. She's not a team player. She's resisting necessary changes. Ms. Morrison countered each one with evidence. Client testimonials praising Megan's work, employee statements about Kyle's disruptive changes, financial records showing Megan's projects were more profitable than anything Kyle had touched. Finally, Ms. Morrison laid out the options. 1. You accept Megan as an equal partner in management. She runs operations as she has been. You participate in ownership without interfering in her work. 2. You buy her out at full market value. 1/3 of $1.8 million is $600,000. 3. She buys you out. She has investors interested. 4. We go to court. I'll file claims for hostile work environment conspiracy to defraud and breach of fiduciary duty. That gets expensive in public. Dad looked stricken. This has gone too far. You're right, I said. It went too far when Kyle and Brenda decided to lie about me to steal what I built. It went too far when you believed them over me. Now we're just dealing with the consequences. Brenda started crying. I didn't want it to be like this. Then you shouldn't have tried to take my job, I said. You could have asked to learn, to help. Instead, you tried to shove me aside. Kyle tried one more time. If we do option 1, how do we know you won't just fire us later? Because unlike you, I said, I'm not vindictive. I just want to do my job. I don't care if you're nominal owners. I care about running Thompson Construction well. You can collect dividends and show up for owner meetings, but operations are mine. That was always the deal. Dad built the company. I grew it. You two just showed up at the end. Aunt Patricia spoke up. Roger, you need to make a decision. Right now. Do you support your daughter who earned her place or the 2 children trying to steal hers? Dad looked at me. Really looked at me maybe for the first time in months. I saw something shift in his face. Oh, God, he said quietly. Megan, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. I just wanted everyone to be happy. Being happy isn't the same as being fair, I said. You taught me that. You taught me that craftsmanship matters, that integrity matters, that you earn respect through work, not through blood. You taught me everything I know about construction and about business. Why did you forget your own lessons? He wiped his eyes. Because Kyle and Brenda are my kids too, and I wanted to believe they'd changed. That they wanted to build something. But you're right. They didn't want to build. They wanted to take. He looked at Kyle and Brenda. I'm ashamed of both of you, and I'm ashamed of myself for letting this happen. Kyle started to protest, but Dad held up his hand. No. Enough. Megan's right about all of it. The final agreement took another week to formalize. Megan retained full operational control as president and COO. Kyle and Brenda held ownership stakes but no management roles. Dad became chairman emeritus, consulting on major decisions but not day-to-day operations. Kyle and Brenda had the option to sell their shares back to the company at any time. Within 6 months, they both exercised that option. Kyle sold his 12% back to Dad. Brenda sold hers to Aunt Patricia, who insisted on being an investor. Thompson Construction officially became mine, not just in practice but in title. I owned the controlling share. I ran everything. And within a year, I'd prove that I'd earned it. The dust settled slowly. The legal agreements were signed. The ownership structure was formalized. But relationships take longer to heal than contracts, if they heal at all. Dad came to the office occasionally in those first few months. He'd wander the shop talking to the crew, clearly nostalgic for the days when things were simpler. One afternoon, maybe 3 months after the final agreements, Dad found me in my office reviewing blueprints. He knocked on the doorframe. Got a minute. Always for you. He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about what I let happen. You don't have to, Dad. He held up his hand. Yes, I do, because I owe you more than an apology. I owe you an explanation. He stared at his weathered hands. When I started this company, I had nothing, just tools and a dream. I built it for my family, for your mom, for you kids. I wanted to leave you something solid, something real. And when I saw the chance to pass it to all 3 of my children, it felt right. Fair. But fair isn't always right, is it? No, I said gently. Sometimes fair means equal opportunity, not equal results. I taught you to earn things, he continued, to work hard to prove yourself. But then I gave Kyle and Brenda things they hadn't earned, because I felt guilty. Guilty that you'd worked so hard while they pursued other things. Guilty that I was proud of you and disappointed in them, so I tried to balance it out, and in doing so, I hurt the one child who never asked me for anything except to let her work. Dad, I started. He shook his head. Let me finish. I failed you, Megan. Not just in the past few months, but for years. I let you carry the weight of this company while giving others credit. I let Kyle and Brenda believe they deserved what you earned, and when they tried to take it, I didn't stop them fast enough. I was a coward. I was afraid of conflict, afraid of choosing sides, afraid of admitting I'd raised 2 children who'd become greedy. You also raised one who became strong, I pointed out. He smiled sadly. I did, despite myself sometimes. You got that strength from your grandfather. My dad, he never took shortcuts, never chose easy over right. You're like him. Kyle and Brenda, they're more like me. They want the easy path. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. I forgive you, I finally said, but I won't forget. I need you to have my back now. For real, not just in words. I will, he promised. I'm proud of you, Megan, prouder than I've ever been. You fought for what you built, even when it cost you. That takes courage I'm not sure I have. You have it too, I said. You just forgot for a while. He stood up and we hugged. It wasn't a perfect healing. Some wounds leave scars. But it was a start. Mom took longer. She didn't come to the office, didn't call for months. It wasn't until Thanksgiving that we finally talked. The family dinner was awkward. Kyle and Brenda didn't come making excuses about other commitments. After dinner, Mom asked me to help with dishes. In the kitchen with water running and our hands busy, she finally spoke. I didn't understand, she said quietly. I still don't entirely. You're all my children. I love you all the same. I paused in scrubbing a plate. Love doesn't always mean equal treatment, Mom. Sometimes it means recognizing that people have earned different things. She was quiet. Your father tried to explain it to me, how Kyle and Brenda were taking advantage. But they're my babies. I wanted to believe the best of them. Even when the worst was right in front of you, I asked not unkindly. She sighed. I suppose I taught them that. That family will always support you no matter what. Maybe that was a mistake. Family should support you when you're right, I said, not when you're wrong. Kyle and Brenda were wrong. They tried to steal from me. If they'd done that to someone outside the family, you'd be horrified. Why is it acceptable because I'm their sister? It's not, she admitted. I see that now. I'm sorry, Megan. Sorry for not believing you sooner. Sorry for putting peace over justice. We finished the dishes together, and when we hugged goodbye that night, it felt different. Not perfect, not healed, but honest, real. Kyle and Brenda I barely heard from. Kyle sent a single text 6 months after selling his shares. I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Brenda sent a Christmas card that year, generic and impersonal. That seemed to be our relationship now. Distant relatives, polite strangers. Aunt Patricia became more than just an ally. She became a true partner. She'd stop by the office weekly not to interfere, but to check in. She'd take me to lunch, ask about projects, celebrate wins. She'd also call out when I was working too much. You proved you can do this alone, she'd say. Now prove you can build a team you trust. She was right. I started delegating more, promoted Tommy to VP of Operations, hired a strong CFO from outside the family, brought in a marketing person to help us grow. I built something bigger than just me, something that could outlast any one person. Thompson Megan Construction became a real company, not just a family business. The company thrived. We landed a contract for a municipal building, our biggest project ever. We won Builder of the Year from the State Association. We were featured in Construction Today magazine. Every success felt like validation, not just of my work, but of my choice to fight. Looking back at that group message, the one that said, "We think it's best you step away for now," I see it differently now. At the time, it felt like the end of everything, a betrayal so deep I didn't think I'd recover. But it was actually the beginning of me standing up for myself, the beginning of me realizing my worth wasn't dependent on family approval. I learned that family love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, that loyalty is a two-way street, that sometimes the people who should support you most are the ones holding you back, and it's okay to step away from them. I learned that one person believing in you like Aunt Patricia did can change everything, that having an ally matters more than having agreement. I learned that standing up for yourself isn't betrayal, it's survival, it's self-respect, it's refusing to let others define your value. And I learned that the people who truly love you will stand with you even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Dad came around eventually. Mom did too in her way. Kyle and Brenda didn't. And that taught me the most important lesson of all. Some people will never see your worth because they're too busy calculating your value. They'll never appreciate your contribution because they're too focused on their own gain. And you can't change those people. You can only decide not to let them change you. I'm not bitter. I'm free. Free from the weight of trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided not to see me. Thompson Megan Construction continues to grow. We're expanding into a third location next year. We've created apprenticeship programs for young builders. We're leading the region in sustainable construction practices. The company that Dad started with a pickup truck now has 70 employees and does $5 million in annual revenue. The company that I grew with 10 years of dedication. The company that Kyle and Brenda tried to take. It's mine now. Not because of blood, because of work, because of integrity, because of refusing to accept anything less than what I earned. If you're facing something similar, remember this. Your worth isn't up for negotiation. Document everything. Find your allies. Get professional help. And don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. The people who truly love you will stand with you, and those who don't. They were never really on your side anyway. Stand your ground. Build something beautiful. Build something that reflects who you are, not who they wanted you to be. And most importantly, trust yourself. You know the truth, even when others refuse to see it. Have you ever had to stand up to family when they were wrong? Have you fought for what you built when others tried to take it? Drop a comment below and share your story. I'd love to hear how you handled it. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more stories about standing up for yourself and choosing your worth over keeping false peace. And please share this video with someone who needs to hear that fighting for what they've earned isn't selfish. It's necessary. Thank you for listening to my story. I know family conflict is never easy to hear about, But sometimes sharing these experiences helps others find courage. I hope my story gave you something, whether it's validation courage or just the knowledge that you're not the only one who's had to fight people who should have supported you. To everyone out there building something real, working hard, earning your place, remember this. You deserve to keep what you build. You deserve respect for your contribution. You deserve family who lifts you up, not tears you down. And if they can't do that, you deserve to walk away with your head high and your integrity intact. Stay strong, keep building, keep fighting for what's yours. And remember, your worth isn't determined by people who refuse to see it. You know your value. That's enough. Thank you for watching. I wish you courage in whatever battle you're facing. You've got this.